Everybody. This is episode 2 of the ENFP show. If you didn't see the first episode or you're new to the channel overall, this is something that myself and my assistant, Svetlana, are taking on. And it's basically every couple weeks we're going to film a show and go through different topics depending on what's going on. A lot of it will be sharing some of the insights that have come out of my private coaching practice or from the ENFP Unleashed community, or they might be episodes built on questions you've sent in, which we always encourage you to do. You can leave questions in the comments, for example, and we'll build them into a future show. On that, I'll pass the mic over here.
Hey everyone, it's pleasure to be here again. And well, some of you might know that Dan is hosting events, and this is something that is coming soon in September. And I thought it would be really nice to discuss the process of organizing it, to kind of have the backstage of the event, because Dan is hosting them for quite a while now. I mean, it's going on since what, 2019, right?
2018 or 19 was the
Yeah.
first. I think
Yeah.
18, yeah.
So, yeah, we always get a lot of questions about what the program is, for who the event is in general. So I thought it would be really, really nice to collect those questions and have Dan to answer them live. I think we can start with the most obvious question, which is why to have this event at all to begin with?
Yeah, good question. And I like this as a topic. Obviously, it's a little bit self-promotional, right? We'll never pretend it's not. We have the event coming up in Prague, September 15th to 19th. So it's a bit of the last call for especially people who want to do like shared accommodation, like partner up with another ENFP or things like that. We're getting about 6 weeks out. But I also thought it was a great topic because I think ENFPs are born to host events. We love to create experiences for people. One of my clients right now, he's probably on a plane as we record this or just landing in the UK, taking his father around Europe. He didn't have to do this. No one in his family would ever think of doing this. It's going to cost him money. It's going to cost a lot of time. But he just thought, my dad's getting older. This would be an amazing thing to do for him, right? This is the ENFP way of thinking. When people visit me in Prague, like friends, family, even subscribers, I think 2 weeks ago, I went out with a subscriber who was in town and just wrote me. I mean, not the super creepy serial killer ones. No, I'm just kidding. Our subscribers are great. But we enjoy that. When someone's in town, I want to create an experience for them. I'm not going to just meet them for a coffee. I'll be like, hey, let me show you around a certain place, or let's, do something like that. And this is something I've noticed in other ENFPs. The idea of creating a unique experience for people is like deep in our hearts. And so I think for ENFPs trying to figure out what they want to do with life, a new business, a new venture, or something on the side they want to be doing, hosting events is one, super wired into who we are. Two, possibly the most AI proof business you can start, right? I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some creepy AI cafe for lonely people opening up soon where you go in and talk to like an AI, robot. It's like the cat cafes, but on steroids. I hope I didn't just give anyone that idea and they're going to do it. But really, I mean, the more we become online, the more we become tech-based, is the more that we miss other people. And these experiences, there's a member of the ENFP Unleashed community who does wild cooking, and he's just starting to do events. So basically, he'll take you off into like, he's in Scotland, if I remember right. And like you go off into the woods and like cook over a fire and all this kind of, and he teaches you how to do it. Like
My
that is
God.
so cool. If he was here, I mean, Mila and I may even fly to Scotland to do one of his events. And I think this is a great, in general, opportunity for ENFPs, right? To look at their own event. So with that, I've been doing them with mixed results in terms of as a business for I think, yeah, 6, 7 years. And so I thought, maybe this can also give people some insights into the experience if it's something they're thinking of doing themselves. Now, Why do events at all? It's actually a really good question because they take a ton of work and they rarely make that much money. And doing online stuff is so much easier. Yeah, I can't emphasize enough how much easier it is to throw together like an online program than host an in-person event. But even when I started the event, I felt this, and now in 2025, I feel it 10 times more. People are so busy. There's so much noise. Nobody needs more information. Nobody needs I mean, sometimes you get really good specific knowledge to yourself, right? Like, I'm not going to say there's nothing useful in my book on ENFPs, right? Of course, you get some knowledge, but everyone has more courses than they can do, I feel like. And a lot of people have the knowledge. What they're missing is the transformation. And I don't think it's possible to experience transformation over a Zoom session with 30 other people, once a week for an hour, or um, watching videos. Now, that can support a lot of growth. I do have my ENFP Unleashed program, which I feel good about because it's like $500 for a ton of training and lifelong monthly group coaching. So like for $500, I feel pretty good about that. But some of these programs online are like $5,000. You're like, no one ever actually goes through and does them all and does all the videos and whatever. Okay, so I'm rambling. But basically, what I found is that for extroverts like ENFPs, our transformations happen when we're around other people, when we're, put in a room with people who think like us, who act like us. And then we realize, like, oh, shit, I'm normal. This isn't like weird, this behavior I have, right? And with that, we're then able to open up and start seeing things differently, break those patterns we might have back home, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's I think why. I also love them. There's parts I hate. I think you were gonna ask me about that later, like the
For sure.
organization process, but I really do love the ENFPs I meet and the people, and it's great.
Yeah, I think it's particularly important for transformation and making change is to change the location, kind of change the environment, and then avoid all of the distractions of your, let's say, natural habitat, and then have some fresh air to reflect and maybe think about your life, distancing from your life, you know? To give an idea to a person who never heard of your events or never attended one, what it is like to be on an event as a guest.
No, I'll do my best. I mean, that's one of the things that actually annoys me is I can't be a guest at the own event. Like sometimes I'll be taking people through a visualization or we're doing these exercises and I'm like, damn, I haven't done this in like 2 years. Like this exercise, like I need to do this myself. Um and same sometimes with the nights out and things like that. I can't go out, with people every night just in terms of managing my energy. And I always wish I could with it. So my events, the way I try to approach it is I want it to feel like a mix of a vacation you would take with friends, like I don't know, European road trip or like an American road trip or European train trip or something like that. Like that kind of experience when you're traveling, a lot is happening, not like sitting at an all inclusive or something. And you're doing it meeting people with friends. That kind of experience combined with some of the results that you would get from a good retreat or seminar you go away to or something like that, which is challenging to try and combine those elements. But for me, and I think this is true for a lot of ENFPs, if something is too cookie cutter, I don't enjoy doing it. I don't have any energy to do it. So, like, I know that business wise, it would be really smart to have like a 4-day curriculum and I just travel around and repeat it. And it's like, hey, day one is this, day two is this, day three. And I just like repeat the same slides and reteach the same thing. The reality is every event I've done, I, it's not that I start fully from scratch because I will reteach certain things I think are essential. But every event I do, I speak to the people coming before and I end up like reworking the material or creating new stuff based on what I've learned since the last one and all that kind of thing. Which that's why I say like online programs, business wise, in many ways make a lot more sense because you just repeat the same thing. You run it a couple times a year. Like you see everyone doing this online, right? Um, but I just don't think that's as effective. And I just can't get excited about it. Where if I'm just like repeating something, it's not interesting for me. That's kind of the curse of the ENFP. It's why ENTJs get really rich. They're really good at like repeating stuff and scaling. And like we have to feel like it's original or creative or something to do it. So um yeah, so if on like a day to day with the events, it's gonna be a mix. Usually we meet around 10, 11 in the mornings. Um, and so, people can sleep in, meditate in the morning, go for runs, whatever they do, right? And then we do like 1 to 3 hours of more formal training, exercises, discussions, group coaching, this sort of thing. And then from there, it's usually more exploring, depending on where we were. So the last event was in Mexico. And so around 1 o'clock would be really hot. So we weren't like going walking around the city. People would more like we were doing it in a villa. So people would go to the pool, hang out, have a nap, whatever. In Prague, we usually go out around that time. So we might go like do a scavenger hunt, go see, you know, a certain part of the city, like the Visegrad Castle or something like that. Do some kind of exercises or tourist type stuff, um, that kind of thing. And then most evenings as well, there'll be like sometimes official, sometimes unofficial, dinners or evenings out, um, going to bars, whatever that happens to be. Every event's a little different, but I have a feeling as I've started calling the event ENFP Fest and have shifted more to all ENFPs, going out will happen most of the evenings because, ENFPs.
Yeah, I can imagine that it creates a really nice bond for all of the guests who are coming. I think spending nearly a week together, having different activities and stuff like that creates this special connection between people. And it actually sounds like a little of a network kind of community of people who are like-minded, very uh, open and entrepreneurial, perhaps. So I also wanted to ask who usually comes to those events? What kind of people?
Yeah. Um, I was talking to someone a little while ago about potentially helping me with advertising because I don't do any advertising, like paid advertising type stuff. And she was asking me the same thing. I was like, it's not going to fit in one of those boxes, like age this, age that. Demographic wise, the basics is across the board. If I think of the event in Mexico in January, the youngest, there was a couple, and I think if I remembering right, he's 23 or 24, and she was like 21, I think. And the oldest would be like early 60s. Um, People's mindset level of fun and maturity is so disconnected from their age among an ENFP group. But yeah, I would say the average, like if I think of that group, most of the people were like 27 to 45, but definitely across the board. And it's not something like the older people, yeah, like I said, are different. Like sometimes it's the oldest people at an event who are staying out the latest and having the most fun. And then, it's all across the board. Um, Obviously, the event is mostly ENFPs. Now, actually, this event coming up, there's at least one INFP coming who's dating an ENFP, and that's totally fine. It says it on the page for the event. Like INFPs and ENFPs are very compatible for these events, and so much of the training overlaps with it. So, and yeah, I think most people are just like good humored. Um, Anyone who likes me enough to come to an event has a sense of humor and, isn't like super easily offended or super anxious or I don't know, whatever else it is. So it tends to be like a really fun, good group of people. it seems like it's definitely that instant friend feeling, at many of the events. Like, within a day, people are just acting together as if they were knowing each other for months or years or something like that. And obviously, by the end of the week, it's, that much more extreme, right, with it. Yeah, and then in terms of, like, life stage and that, it's the majority of people coming, I don't know, maybe it's tough to put a percentage, but let's say it's like 60% or something, are pretty well set up in life. They've had some level or a tremendous level of success, and they're either looking to then make the next evolution and change, or they are uh, trying to dial things in to be much more ENFP friendly. So maybe they have like a $3 million a year business, but they're not necessarily running it based on their strengths, and they're getting really like stretched out by it. So they're like, okay, how do I keep running this $3 million a year business, but do it as an ENFP and that? And then there's a group within that who are just like, this is fun. Like, this is a great, like, I want to learn and grow. There's someone who's come to a few of the events, and like, she definitely takes something away from each one, but she's also just like, this is the most fun vacation every year. Like, to go somewhere cool with a group of ENFPs for a week, like, why not? And so that's usually it. Like, the level of seriousness, like, some people are coming, their life is pretty great, and they're like, this is just awesome to meet everyone. And some people are more coming like, I'm working on a transformation right now, or I need help with something uh, with it. And yeah, and I guess it's different for everyone in that way. And that's because it's a smaller group, like, it's usually 6 to 10 people. I'm pretty good at managing those different stages. So the people who are uh, m- more interested in the vacation won't get bored, but the people who are more there for transformation get a little more of like my one-on-one attention and everything like that, to make sure that they get what they need from it.
Great. Um, well, I can imagine also that you hosting an event, you do it almost every year, right? Or approximately. I guess you learn a lot of stuff along this way. Does every event bring something new, or do you change your approach to things? How does it influence you in general? Like, does it have an impact on your life or your coaching style?
It definitely does. So I think there's two big things that I've learned from the events that's changed how I am as a coach. So the very first event was in Mexico. And one of the things that is really frustrating about in-person events is you don't control world events. So the very first event was going to be in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. And up until maybe 6 months before that, I never would have thought of hosting like a 7 day. This was a 7 day event. I just like, I wouldn't have the energy for it. But I'd started on keto some months before. I'd been getting really healthy, and I was like, I can do this. This will work. Like, I got the energy for it. So I set up, my flights to Mexico and accommodation, all these things. And then I announced this event. And the day I announced this event, which was probably too last minute, that's one of the things I've learned is, you don't want to announce things last minute for people, is if you were to Google Playa del Carmen, Mexico, the first thing that came up is U.S. Embassy issues red alert, heavy, like, intense terrorism threat, Playa del Carmen. So the day I'm sending everyone the email, they're like, oh, cool. What's that
No.
city like? They put the city in Google, and the first thing you see is like red alert, terrorism threat. It's like, well, that's not going to work out too well. Like, ENFPs are crazy, but we're not like insane usually, right?
Yeah.
So what had happened is a boat was blown up, like this huge boat in the harbor. It turns out it was an insurance fraud, and someone wanted to something like that. But they thought, okay, is this cartel? Is this? Is this a terrorist attack? So that's not ideal, right? Like, uh,
Yeah,
so
not really.
it's like right now, if you put like Europe in Google, you probably see about the heat waves, but I'm looking outside and it's like people have jackets on. But there was a heat wave in, I think, May, or no, in June, there was like a heat wave. So in everyone's mind now, Europe is like this crazy desert where like you're going to die right away from the heat. Okay, so anyhow, so the Mexico event, it ended up working out, but I changed a lot how I did it. So first off, only 3 people ended up signing up, which, I don't know if you know how much it costs to fly from Mexico, to Europe and, like, rent a place and all that. Like, it definitely wasn't making any money on this event. But I was very determined, um, like, I'll never cancel anything, and I was very determined, like, this is gonna be good for these 3 people. Like, these people trusted me, they're coming to Mexico, they're crazy enough or they didn't see this red alert from the embassy. So, what I ended up doing is I invited a friend I knew who I thought would benefit from the event, but was also, like, quite wise, like, he'd had some business success, so I was like, "Do you wanna come for free, and then also you can, help people out who are starting their businesses?" And then I got another volunteer to help me with it, and then I had some friends in Mexico kinda come for a bunch of the dinners. So, the 3 people who came were actually out for dinners with, like, 8 people most nights, and it, like, felt more like an event, um, which was good. And I ended up like, we ended up going out, I think, every night of those 7 days. We'd do some training in the day, and then we'd go out for dinners, sometimes more like party, go to a club. And that was me probably trying too hard to not fail. Like, I may have pushed myself energy-wise a little too much. But what I learned from that is there was 3 people at that event. One, she was quite a bit older and closer more to retirement and just, like, kinda wanted to come to this event. And then there were 2 younger guys who were more looking for a transformation. And the 2 younger guys both like, one ended up getting this dream job, almost through the event, like, through a mutual friend, working remote that allowed him to, like, go travel the world and all this kinda stuff. And then the other, Vedo, was from well, he was Mexican, but he was living in Vancouver, where I'm from, and he wanted to move to Europe, and he ended up moving to Berlin, I think, 2 months later. And it was with Vedo that I actually had this insight about basically, like, over drinks coaching, where I realized, like, if you're sitting around in a, conference room, everyone's guard is up, you're in, like, thinking mode, it's very lame. Like, you're not feeling, which is when ENFPs make changes in your life, right? We don't make it from thinking. The ENFPs who are stuck are thinking too much. That's why they're stuck. And so I remember we were out at this bar. I remember it specifically because they did free gin and tonics for ladies. It ended up going out of business, of course. Uh, and we were at this bar and we were sitting around a booth and I knew Vedo knew he needed to move and he didn't like his job and all these things, but he'd been stuck for like quite a long time. And he said, like, I'm scared of making this change. So I ended up telling all these stories about myself and other clients about, being scared and having all this fear and what it was like, but what that day was like when I finally did change and bought a ticket or made a move or whatever that was. And I felt like just with his energy, that's probably what got through to him the most of the whole event that led to ultimately, making that move and everything like that. And so that changed a lot even with how I coach normally, where I realize that if something is too, it varies obviously by every coach or therapist or psychologist has their own style. But I realized for me, one of the things that actually really helps me help people with a transformation is like being a real human and just connecting with them really naturally. The reason I ended up getting into coaching was that I would just be out with normal, friends or on a date, and by the end of it, they'd be like quitting their jobs or, making a big life change or something. Like my natural impulse is to do that. And so there was a phase in my coaching where I was trying to become too clinical and it actually got worse. Like my clients were getting less results than when I pulled back and was like, no, just be Dan. Like use these techniques, the tools. Like I have a psych degree,
Yeah.
I have different coaching training, use them, but focus on like my natural energy. And I think it was that event that reminded me of that the most. So, yeah, the second thing that came from it is and this has been more the recent events, is I think it was like 3 years ago, I did a visualization at one of the events. Years ago, I had, as part of my coaching training, I am trained in parts of not quite hypnosis, but in the direction of, like, guided meditations and visualizations and these sorts of exercises, and, I've done, like, neuro-linguistic programming, NLP training, and these different things, and I hadn't used them for quite some time, and it was at the event where we had a camera crew at, I guess it was, like, 3 years ago in Prague, and I decided, like, "Hey, I'm gonna do this exercise," and it was, um, like, I wasn't going back to my training manuals. I don't know what the hell I was thinking in retrospect. Like, I just had an idea for an exercise and was like, "Alright, everyone lie down," like, spread out in the living room. We were doing it from my apartment, so I had this big room, everyone spread out, found a place to sit down and everything, and, I took people through, like, an hour-long exercise to remove your inner critic and just, like, get rid of that voice that we all know kind of what that is,
Mhm.
right? Some people
Yeah.
might think of it as a gremlin or a critic or whatever. At the end of it, one of the camera guys who was an ENFP who I'd known for a while was like, "How did you do that?" "I don't know. I haven't done that work for, like, 10 years since my training." Um, and the thing is, though, then the people who were at the event, when we talked later, like, on the ENFP Unleashed sessions, they brought up, like, that was the best part of the event. Like, that was the most transformational part, that exercise you did. And so I was like, "Okay, well, only an idiot would not do more of that at future events, right?" If this is what everyone's saying. So now that's become a larger part of events, um, where, yeah, instead of, like, more clinical training, we'll do more, exercises in that direction. And, I don't know, for people watching, if you go to the ENFP, it's ENFPEvents.com, the website for ENFP Fest. There's a video from Senna, who was at this first event where I did this exercise, and she stayed in the room the longest. Like, every people basically, when they've got rid of their critic, they leave the room and they go kind of sit and so she was in the room the longest. And obviously something worked because well, you can see the video on the website, but essentially she had this, like, very specific vision for what she wanted in life. Like, live by the beach with a volcano, have twins, like, 3 kids with twins, with all this stuff. And as she says in the video, like, that all happened in the last year, like, a couple years after the event, which is pretty
Yeah, this
crazy.
is
And she's like, "It was exactly like what I saw there," right? I think you've seen the video, or yeah.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm. This is even a little scary, I don't know, in a way, you know?
I think it is scary for people. The idea of being really clear on what you want, um, is, yeah, it can be terrifying because 'cause you're like, 1, you have to figure out what you want that you'd actually be happy with. So if it happens, you're cool, right? You're not like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
have this and I'm not happy." And then there's obviously the, "What if I don't get it?" or "How would I do it?" or everything like that. Um, but it's such an important part, that clarity of, what you really want. And, on a very high level, my process at the events is a mix of, like, stripping away negative patterns and baggage people might have from back home, whether that, like, in Senna's case, she was in a really toxic relationship. So it's a chance for her to get out of that by being away. And then, so stripping away those habits, putting people in a new environment, then simultaneously helping them figure out what they really do want, and then eliminating the things like the inner critic, bad habits, etc., that will keep you from getting those things. And that's pretty much it. Like, if someone, an ENFP at least, if they know really what they want, they have a general sense of how to get there, right? We're very quick learners. We can figure stuff out. Like, the how is not the hard part. If they have a sense of what they want, ideally a clear vision of what they want, and we can strip out all the baggage, the self-sabotage, the, environmental issues like you brought up earlier, right? If they're in the wrong kind of environment and whatever, then that's, like, pretty good to go.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of interesting work, connection with people, and it's probably energy consuming. I can imagine. As an introvert, I cannot envision, to be honest. So,
It is not an introvert-friendly job, I will be I'll be honest about that.
for sure not. So maybe there are some hard things for you as well. What is the hardest thing you face during those events or organizing those events?
Yeah, let me think and make a few notes. Hardest part. So one, and these might be for ENFPs overall. I think they'd probably be the toughest. So with the energy, I get so much energy from the other ENFPs, and I do well under pressure. The energy wise, I have to manage it. Uh, like in Prague, I'm fortunate. I have a sauna and a pretty good routine. So, like, I don't know why the sauna just helps me, like, de-stress and sleep well and whatever. I definitely, during the events, am very, like, uh, disciplined with exercise and, sleeping well and all that, just to make sure I have the physical energy. But socially, people are so awesome at the events, like, it's not a problem. I actually find I end up going out socially with the members on a lot of the nights, even though I probably like, I don't have to, and I probably shouldn't. I'm just like, whatever. Again, extrovert problem, not like, um, the hardest part, the part I really don't like, and truthfully, this will be the second event this year. I probably won't do an event next year. We'll see. And I skipped, I think, 1 year. I forget what year, not because of COVID, but like I think I skipped a year, 2024, I skipped. I didn't do an event. And the reason is the promotion is I am really like my personal focus behind the scenes is I spend a lot of time writing and everyone's probably like, what the hell are you writing? I'm working on this book, which is getting really good, I swear. I gotta produce it soon or people are just gonna like unsubscribe. So is writing, and then I work really closely with my one-on-one coaching clients, and I'm not really thinking like a business person anymore. Like I don't do big promotions. I don't just do paid advertising. And the thing with events is you have a certain threshold of people you want to get there and a deadline. So there's some pressure, right, to making it all work. And there's so many obstacles for it. You know, you do an online event, anyone in the world can buy it at any time. A lot of people will buy and not necessarily show up if it's like a pre-recorded thing. They'll do it like a year later or something like that, which is fine, right? They can do it whenever they want. When you're for this, you have like there's at least two people who are likely not coming because they're out of vacation days for the year. There's sometimes there's budget for people, you know, coming across, like if they're coming from the US or something, although budget is rarely the one I hear. There's like vacation days. There's one person with a conflict with another wedding. There's another person with another date conflict. I shouldn't say another wedding. No one's, well, someone might get married at ENFP Fest, but there have been people who've come and got married shortly after, and there's babies from the events as well. So, but anyhow, so that I find the promotion part really distracting. I have this feeling in the back of my mind like I need to be doing more. I don't love bugging my email subscribers all the time with like prices going up in 2 days and then, you know, a week later, all this kind of stuff. But you have to do that to make events work because people wait
Yeah.
for these deadlines to take action because everyone has trained them to be that way. And so yeah, that part, I find quite frustrating, and if I had you know, I don't know how this would work out, but if it was just known, like, okay, twice a year, 10 people are, like, gonna come, I would host events left, right, and center. It's just, like, I absolutely love being with people and the on the ground and putting everything together. The other part that I'll just share because it might be helpful for other ENFPs is I had to get rid of this should feeling, like I should have a super organized itinerary. I have a decent one now for the events, but I used to think like a TJ, okay, I need to have this perfect structure, and I'd feel like I wasn't doing things right if I didn't have every day scripted. But like that's not how I do my best work. I do my best work improvising. I do my best work in the moment. Like, and even logically, it makes sense to me if after day one, I've met all these people in real life, I have a much better sense of who they are. It might be wise to change what I'm teaching because I now get a better sense of what will help people and everything, right? And
Yeah.
so and so I always feel kind of, or I used to feel guilty about that, and that wasted a lot of mental energy feeling like I wasn't prepared. But I know I do my best in the pressure of the moment and improvising and like working with what's in front of me. So learning to just not feel like I should do it the way someone else would, let's say.
Yeah, it's definitely not the way to do stuff in general when it comes to things like I should do this, having this kind of.
Shoulds are bad. Now, for other types, like an ISTJ would run maybe a great event based on it being super scheduled, right? And everything's organized really well, right? Um, yeah, a TJ type could do a great event, but they'd pre-organize it all, and that would work really well for them, right? But for me, it doesn't work well. So it's just like, I mean, that's what this channel is all about, right? Is like working your own strengths and, with your own personality, of course.
It must be really fun meeting all those people. And maybe you have some stories, the stuff to share. I don't know, something funny that warmed your heart every time you think about that.
Um, I have to think what stories I share based on people's privacy and the image I set for the events. Yeah, every event, like there's different crowds which bring a bit of a different energy to events. I think this one by the people who signed up already is going to be quite a fun one. Um, in terms of people who do like to party a little bit and will want to go out and enjoy the city a lot as well. Also who, have had some good success in life and all that kind of stuff too. The story that randomly popped into my mind was from an event in Spain, and it was actually probably the oldest and most successful person at the event who also loved to enjoy life and just be a little wild, as ENFPs often are. And I don't know why this memory pops in my head. It's like the worst memory ever to promote an event with. So we were in this little town, Rhonda, which I thought I was going to have a really good venue space that had like a view of this famous bridge there and like an outdoor terrace, and it didn't quite work out. But we ended up renting like a recording studio that had a cool setup and hosted it there. But yeah, the town had a legacy of different writers and artists living there and all that. So I thought it would be like a cool place for creatives, but like not a big social scene or restaurant scene or whatever. But we did find this kind of bar disco type place, and we're in there, and the guys get a hookah, and a hookah is like, the big, like,
Eh,
whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And so the younger guy of the two, just because there is technically drugs involved in this, I'm going to. So these two guys had went and bought hash somewhere at some point, right? Generally, this is not part of the event. I mean, it's not part of the event or events, but they'd went off on their own time and they'd bought some hash, and so then the younger guy has this hookah, and we're in the bar, and I'm on the other side of the bar, and I'm just watching this from a distance. And the older guy takes the hash and drops it in the hookah, which like I don't think either of them had done this and knew what was going to happen. So the smell instantly emits in this whole bar. Right? Hash is illegal in Spain. The smell emit, and I'm watching the younger guy desperately just sucking in through the hookah so the smoke won't go out. And he's not stopping because the minute he stops, the bouncers are going to smell this and come over, which is inevitably what happened, right? And they were asked to leave the bar. Uh, that was very funny. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a very funny
Gosh.
time. What are the other there were so many I mean, Mexico had a lot of funny experiences, the with the villa time. Yeah, every there's definitely transformations as well with people, like, I Michael, who will be at the event in Prague, he came 2 years ago, and, he's coming back to this event, and he went through quite a big transformation, and his life has just, like, really evolved since then. He's like, "Oh, it'd be cool to come back," and, he's flying all the way he's from New Zealand, but he moved to South Africa, and that was part of the change he wanted to make at the Prague event 2 years ago. And then he's flying from, South Africa to Europe, and anyhow, I remember the event he was at, everyone got, like we're quite close, and we had a few fun nights out, and I just remember, Michael, who, like, on the surface looks like quite a conservative farmer guy, beard and this, and, we all ended up at this ridiculous bar here, which is like Harley's, you probably know, right? It's like a Harley Davidson theme biker bar, mostly for tourists, I'm
Yeah.
sure. And he's on the stage with like two of the other people at the event, just like going crazy, like this whole thing. And you're like, yeah, this is fun. And then I don't know if it was that night or the next night, but, like, 5 people from the event, they all ended up, like, sleeping on the bed and the floor in someone else's hotel room, like, because they just stayed up, like they just went there and they were talking, and then it's, like, 6 in the morning, and they'd been talking all night and, like, had just stayed at her hotel, like, sleeping on the floor or whatever,
Oh
um,
god.
which
This
is
sounds really nice. It's like
it's,
student life a little bit.
it's very much student life, and the thing is, like, I think most ENFPs, myself included, are not living the full social life we would like because 'cause you're trying to balance your health and productivity, and in many cases where people live, just it's not that fun, there's just not that much to do or whatever it is, and so Prague being a city where there's too many things to do, and then going from, for some people, like a more conservative or boring group of friends to this group of like ENFPs in vacation mode is, yeah, people enjoy their their time, and that. But I honestly, I really think it helps with the change and the transformation people can go through at the event because and usually we do a bit more of the time out earlier in the event because then you let your guard down, right? Once you've been out with someone and chatted to 4 in the morning, you're like the next day when we get into, heavier stuff, you're open. You're like, "Okay, cool. Everyone has this connection."
Yeah.
Whereas like normally you go to an event and it's like, "Hello. Yes. I'm John." Yeah, exactly, right? And there's like so part of it is just because it's fun, but part of it is actually strategic on my side to, let people really connect and grow closer with things with each other, and then that, that
Mhm.
makes everything go really well.
Sounds amazing. Do you have a record of people becoming like friends through your events or keeping the communication after? Like, do they create this long-term bond with each other? Because I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
once you've been to such an amazing vacation abroad, having fun, transforming your life with all those people, you become quite close then.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm so bad at keeping up with people, like, kind of checking in and things like this. Um, I know from the event that just happened in Mexico, like, there's some people in that group already, like, doing like, everyone's staying in touch in this group chat we have, with their lives, but I know people are also doing some trips together. Um, they've made friends and are organizing trips and things like that. Um, okay, this was the craziest, totally random. So you asked me like what kind of people come to the events, and there's often like a coincidence, like um, for example, at the upcoming event, one person coming as a lawyer, one person coming as a farmer, and there's a woman that I hope will be coming. I'm not sure, but we've been chatting with email, who's like a lawyer who also runs a small farm, like where she lives. And I'm like, what are the like odds of the
Why?
because for ENFPs, like there's not a ton of lawyer ENFPs, there's not a ton of farmer ENFPs. So it's pretty funny. So with the Mexico event, there was one room that had two beds. So it was, a shared room for people, pay a little less for accommodation. And I was talking to the first person who wanted to take that room, her name, I think I've got the order right. I might be mixing the order of the conversations, but I was talking to Marina. And Marina had first emailed me. She's Spanish, but has been living in the US for a little bit. And she emailed me with a photo of this volcano in Guatemala and said, like, I was just reading your book on top of this volcano in Guatemala. And, it's awesome, blah, blah, blah. And, I'm interested in this coaching thing you do or something like that. And that was a few years before. And then we did some coaching work together. And then she decided she was going to come to this event. And then I was talking to Lindsay and saying essentially, "Hey, I think I have a really good roommate for you, like for the event, whatever." And I think like I said like, she read the book because I remember Lindsay had said to me, I'm butchering the story, but Lindsay had said to me something about reading the book as well while she was in or in Central America, right? And I was like, oh yeah, she was reading it and Lindsay's like, I read your book on a volcano in Guatemala. And I'm like, should we be advertising to like women approximately like
Uh,
25 to 30 in Guatemala on volcanoes? Like, is this like the demographic? It's very funny. So there's definitely friendships and things form. In a perfect world, like I would love to I think that people are far more disconnected than we should be. And this
yeah.
is way jumping ahead, but I would love at some point if I just have the money where I really don't have to think about things or making a profit or just like my time to find a way to set up communities for people to connect more. Cause I think the people from the events, like they connect, they stay in touch. Sometimes they do trips together or end up living in the same city or things like that, which is awesome. But, even so, people when you're not in the same place, you grow apart. Even my best friends, I talk to way less than I should, right? When we're not living in the same cities. And yeah, I've always thought it would be very cool to create a community somewhere, but you've got to really not become a weird cult. Like the idea of creating an awesome community that doesn't become a weird cult or something. I think it is possible. I think in his testimonial about the Mexico event, there's some funny testimonials on the event page, like ENFPs clowning around. And I think in Tim's, he's like, Dan is the best cult leader who doesn't want to like it says something along those lines. He's like, what did he say? Like a cult leader with good intentions or something like this. But yeah, yeah. So I'm excited for this event coming up, and it's something on paper they don't necessarily always make sense to do, and for ENFPs thinking about hosting events, like you've got to figure out the math and your time and how much you can spare and everything like this to put it together. But there is a great payoff from it. um I know that there are uh children being born, marriages that would not have happened. At least one marriage. I shouldn't say marriages. At least one marriage that like I don't think would have happened without the event. Like some pretty significant transformations come from it. It's not everyone, of course. I mean, that's life, right? In the past, there's been people who've come and haven't really done too much from it or weren't a great fit, which is one reason now too I do a little more uh, proactive screening and make sure the group's like a really great fit. But the percentage of people who end up really making a big change and getting, like just walking into a basically new life from it, um, is pretty high. And so it's like there's a good feeling from doing them, and, yeah, once you get over the nerves and all that, then it's actually pretty fun and, a fulfilling thing to do.
Yeah, it sounds very exciting. I'm looking forward to it as well. I hope my schedule will allow me to join as well and
Yeah,
be a
me
part of
too, me
it.
too.
I would really love to. Yeah, it's definitely not something you get every day, especially with
No,
this
I
online world taking
I
over.
I obviously agree. I would say, well, I'll say a little bit about this upcoming event in a second, but for anyone, if you can't make this event, uh, but you're trying to figure something out in life, make some kind of a change, I cannot emphasize more the importance of like disconnecting and changing your environment for a few days. Like, even if it's just you go to a cottage or go stay with an old friend on the sofa, even like whatever. Um, Not the same as, a group of crazy ENFPs for a week, but the change of scene and disconnecting is so much. Um, there's so much pulling us in so many directions that when I think one of the things that gets in people's way a lot is like the limited energy and being pulled in so many ways. So like you start to think about, I want to do this or I want to make this change or whatever it is. And your brain's processing, but maybe that takes a couple days or at least a couple hours, but then it's, like, difficult to think about that stuff. So then you're like, "Okay, let me just go check this thing or watch this thing." Or people are hounding you, your kids come home and they're like, "Hey, we need to do this." And, like, you never get those thoughts complete. So it's like 10 years go by and you're having the same thought about how you wanna, like, make this change, but you don't have enough open space to actually do it. And, yeah, and then, of course, like, change is scary, so we're gonna look for any way we can to avoid focusing on it. So if you combine those 2 things, like, all the distractions and things pulling us everywhere, and then the fact that it's natural to be avoidant of change, even when it's completely positive, then it's makes sense, right? That you kind of get in these, Groundhog Day sort of situations for people. So, yeah, even if you can't come to the event, like, find a way to break your habits for like 3 to 5 days and do something like that. For the event, for anyone interested, first of all, it's coming up in, I guess, 6 weeks now. It's September 15th to 19th in Prague. Ideally, you don't have to do this, but ideally try and get here a day before and stay a day or 2 later. Again, not required. Some people have even come and had to leave early for events in the past, but it's, once you meet all these ENFPs, like the event ends on a Friday, so spend the weekend in Prague, right? We'll do something. There'll be, things to do together and whatever. Um, Good news is it looks like accommodation and all that is going to be very affordable. Like tourism's way down in Prague right now. So accommodation, like I hear in Canada and the US sometimes hotels are like $300 a night. I think in Prague it's probably going to be you can do less than 100 a night. You can also stay at the W hotel or something crazy and, ball out if you want to do that. But with accommodation too is it's possible I can set you up with another ENFP to like share a two-bedroom or share a room or something like that. So if anyone's interested in that, you can write me. On the event page, there's a form you can fill out with your information, questions, things like that. You can also write me directly on WhatsApp. And I think, yeah, that goes to our business WhatsApp account that will respond pretty quick about the event, can answer any questions. We can also set up a consultation and talk for like half an hour and just for both of us, for me to see that you'll benefit from the event and it's a good fit and vice versa. Um, and yeah, and then with all the details are on the event page. Feel free to write about pricing. Like if you want to do a payment plan or anything like that, I'm very flexible in terms of all that. I'm an ENFP. So my main thing is always like getting good people to the event. And then I'm happy to find whatever way to make that work for people. So I don't know. Is there any like other details should mention about it? Do you think? Um,
I think you have an amazing website, to be honest.
it's
It
like too much of a website for one event, right? We put too much effort into it. Well, yeah, it's if you're watching this and you have been looking at the event already or you're on the fence, like I would just encourage you to write me if it's anything like logistical to figure out, anything like that. I know there's probably a bit of a natural fear of meeting a dude from the internet and then a bunch of random strangers. People mentioned that at the events. There was like, I was really on the fence, like especially Mexico because it was in a villa, right? So everyone's living together. But um, yeah, it really ends up just being a great vibe and group of people. So there's a bit of courage required to like roll those dice and be like, okay, I'm just gonna go to this.
jump in.
But yeah, but then also part of what makes the group great because it's kind of filtered, right? It's like
Mhm.
everyone who's there had to have a bit of that faith in humanity and that people are good and that this event will be fun and whatever it is. So cool. Um, yeah, I think that's it. I would encourage people to come. It's probably the last event for, well, it's the last event for at least a year, if not a bit longer. As I said, just the promotion thing and all that takes so much time. So if you've been thinking of coming to events in the past, I would encourage you to do so. And yeah, it'll be a ton of fun. And this time, maybe we'll actually post some videos and photos of it live when it happens instead of like waiting 6 months like I always do.
Yeah,
Like, I think people assume
good
the
idea.
Mexico event was like a total bomb because I announced it all, right? We're having this event, we're at this villa, and then I posted nothing about it for like 6 months. So people were probably like, oh, that I guess sucked or, and like the truth is it was great. Like there's so many good photos and so much. I think you've posted
Okay.
some of the photos on Instagram now, right?
Yeah,
From
yeah.
it. Um,
I believe it
but
was
like,
so good, no one even touched their phone.
I would kind of nudge people. I'd be like, hey, take some photos. We need some photos for like, but yeah, it's a funny thing. If you organize a group with really shallow, annoying people, then they'll take photos the whole time. So it will look
Yeah,
really good online, but the actual event will suck. And if you organize an event with my subscribers, because I am very like, don't waste your life on your phone, don't waste your life on social media, then the actual event is awesome, but it looks online like it sucks
no
because no
record.
one's posting or doing anything about it. Um, which, yeah, it's kind of how life is in many ways these days too. But all right, we can wrap it up here. Hope you've learned something from this episode, everyone, and maybe hope to see you in Prague. We'll be back in, I guess, a week or two, probably 2 weeks, with the next episode where we don't know the topic yet. So if there's a topic you'd like us to cover or any questions you have, leave a comment with that, and we might work it into the show. Thank you for your help as always.
My pleasure. All right, see you all next week.